someone that the BJP had relied upon time and again to dig it out of a difficult spot. It had fielded Arun Jaitley in every debate where it perhaps would have felt was on a sticky wicket. Now, Arun Jaitley's knowledge of the law, of the Indian constitution, of the country's economy and the state of the finances was unmatched. There were few others who perhaps would have had the same stature as Arun Jaitley that he has enjoyed in the last couple of decades. And what is also at this point of time important to reiterate is that this in many ways is a huge loss, not just for the BJP but also for the nation as back in 1975, at the time when emergency had been imposed, he had been arrested. He spent about 19 months in prison, and from there on, he of course went on to grow within the rank and file of the BJP. His rise within BJP was quite meteoric, and he was one of the most articulate and intellectual politicians of India, a rare breed of a politician who could hold forth on several topics in one go. Yes, Karthikeya, you wanted to comment.
Despite falling ill number of times, he would come back again. You know, Mr. Jaitley had a high blood pressure. Mr. Jaitley went through bariatric surgery. Mr. Jaitley subsequently had a complication because of the bariatric surgery. Because the first surgery, bariatric surgery, which is the weight loss surgery, was done by Mr. Venkaiah Naidu. Then high-profile Minister Nitin Gadkari underwent it. But Mr. Jaitley unfortunately had an issue. Then, after, before that, Mr. Jaitley had a triple bypass surgery when he was 52 years old. So it was not as Mr. Jaitley was keeping very well. And apart from that, triple bypass surgery, Mr. Jaitley also battled cancer in the last few days of his life. So a person who had a triple bypass surgery, person who was suffering from cancer, person who had a kidney issue, person who had a bariatric surgery, person who had high diabetes and blood pressure, performed very efficiently as the finance minister of this country, defense minister of this country, law minister of this country, commerce minister of this country, and union information broadcasting minister of this country. And very few people would know that Mr. Jaitley undertook the project which Saleh, I would say, was to expand into South India. The fact that who was the General Secretary? It was Arun Jaitley who was the General Secretary at that point of time. When the first time the BJP Nitish Kumar government came to power in 2005 in Bihar, who was the General Secretary? Arun Jaitley was the General Secretary. So Arun Jaitley was a quintessential backroom boy, and that is why a lot of firebrand leaders had a problem. Not to say that Uma Bharati at that point of time, we would all know she openly revolted.
Absolutely.
Even Sushma Swaraj had differences with Arun Jaitley, but they all reconciled to one thing. If the levers of the power had to be quietly exercised in Delhi, you had to go to Mr. Jaitley's room.
Absolutely, and that of course set Arun Jaitley apart, the manner in which he understood the politics within Delhi, as you put it, and this is also one of the things that set him apart. And also, Karthikeya, this is something that the BJP will have to dwell upon a bit. We were talking about bench strength. Do you think this is now going to impact the BJP going forth, considering the fact that two of their stalwarts, Sushma Swaraj and Arun Jaitley, leaders who had stood the party in good stead, who had dug the party out of many a sticky argument, who were the leaders of the Rajya Sabha and the Lok Sabha, they've all passed in such a short span of time?
If you ask me, what is the biggest contribution of Arun Jaitley, and I think the editorials would be written on it, would be the implementation of goods GST.
Absolutely.
GST is Arun Jaitley's contribution. GST could not be implemented when UPA was in power because Narendra Modi and other chief ministers were opposed to it, because they felt that the portion which should go to the state, the centre would appropriate. But Mr. Jaitley was able to implement GST. Whether you like it or not, Arun Jaitley will always be remembered for a minister who brought unified tax in India, one. Secondly, Mr. Jaitley will also be remembered for most, I would say, expansion of Bharatiya Janata Party in areas which was unheard of. Karnataka, Mr. Jaitley was the General Secretary in charge, and Yediyurappa went on to become the Chief Minister. Mr. Jaitley will also be remembered as one of the few politicians who were actively campaigning against Indira Gandhi during emergency, made friends with the Socialist Party and kept in touch with them. So Mr. Jaitley will not be known as like one of the run-of-the-mill politicians. Mr. Jaitley was not a Lok Sabha politician.
Absolutely.
apart from the Dusu election he won, he never won any election in his life, but he made other people win and lose. So that's where Mr. Jaitley would be remembered. But more than that, if you look at the parliamentary contribution of Arun Jaitley between 2009 to 2014, I think his biggest decision was to get Lokpal bill passed in Rajya Sabha, where BJP was in majority, and lend support to Sonia Gandhi on a favourite bill, Women Reservation Bill.
Absolutely, indeed. And also there's information that has come in, and let's remind our viewers that Arun Jaitley's body will be taken to his Kailash colony residence. We given to understand that that is happening presently. And tomorrow at 12 in the afternoon, his body will be taken to the BJP headquarters. And then at roughly about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, his body will then be taken to the Nigam Bodh Ghat for the purpose of cremation. This of course, is the itinerary of the last rites that will be performed for such a towering personality in Indian politics, who is now no more. Arun Jaitley, the man whom in many ways came to define the BJP's narrative during the difficult times when the BJP was out of power. The man who had doggedly stood out for the BJP, providing it with intellectual heft, with his strategies and with the manner in which he was able to debate and put forth the narrative of the BJP forward, is now no more. And someone who also, to a very large extent, attracted the educated middle class to the BJP. That will, of course, be one of his defining legacies as a party worker and a party leader. And reactions, of course, have been pouring in, tributes have been pouring in ever since this news of Arun Jaitley having passed away came in roughly at about 7 minutes past 12 this afternoon. Let's listen in to a few of the reactions.
अब इस समय लखनऊ में यूं ही तुरंत मुझे जानकारी प्राप्त हुई कि हम सबके अभिन्न मित्र, जिन्होंने लंबे समय तक मिलजुल कर साथ काम किया था, उनका निधन हो गया। अब वो हमारे बीच नहीं है।
भारतीय जनता पार्टी का मैं जब अध्यक्ष था, 3 साल में अनेक प्रसंग, समस्या, संकटों पर उनसे सलाह लेकर मैं काम करता था। पार्टी के विचारधारा के प्रति समर्पित ऐसा उनका व्यक्तित्व था। उनका जाना हम सबके लिए हमारी व्यक्तिगत, पारिवारिक, पार्टी की, सामाजिक, सरकार की, राष्ट्रीय ऐसी हानि है।
One of my closest associates, his death is an irreparable loss for the country and personally to me also. I have no words to express my grief. I have been a colleague right from student days. Parliament, he was the leader of the opposition and leader of the house.
बहुत दुख की घड़ी है। अरुण जी के साथ हमने 40 साल से अधिक समय काम किया था, विद्यार्थी परिषद के समय से। जितनी उनकी बौद्धिक प्रतिभा थी, जितनी उनमें क्षमता थी, बड़े वकील थे, बड़े सांसद थे, योग्य मंत्री थे और हमारी पार्टी के वरिष्ठ नेता थे। 67 साल को जाने की उम्र तो होती नहीं, 66 साल। तो हम बहुत दुखी हैं। ईश्वर उनकी आत्मा को शांति प्रदान करे। और मेरे लिए तो एक प्रकार से व्यक्तिगत लॉस है।
All right, so those are some of the reactions that are coming in after the news of Arun Jaitley having passed away has come forth. And many of these leaders that we just heard speak were contemporaries and colleagues of Arun Jaitley, people who'd worked with him within the government, and also leaders who had grown up along with Arun Jaitley as politicians, nurtured during the Vajpayee era, and of course coming into their own in the present incumbent era of Narendra Modi. And this is going to be a huge loss both for the party, the Bharatiya Janata Party, and also for the nation as a whole. One of the sharpest minds of contemporary India, someone who understood legal affairs and our constitution like few others could in our country, someone who had such a good grasp on what was happening with the economy of our country, is no more.